The first time I saw him, I thought he was just another guest who'd lost his room key. It was 2047 a.m. on a Tuesday, and I was 3 hours into my overnight shift at the Riverside Inn, a small 2-story motel on the edge of town that barely saw 20 guests on a busy night. Most nights, I'd sit behind the front desk scrolling through my phone, occasionally checking the security monitors. Boring work, but easy money, until the man in the gray hoodie appeared at my window. He didn't knock, didn't ring the bell. He just stood there, face obscured by the hood, staring at me through the glass. I looked up from my phone, startled, and our eyes met, or at least I think they did. The parking lot light behind him cast his face in shadow. I waited for him to say something, ask for a room, anything, but he just stood there, perfectly still for what felt like an entire minute. Then, without a word, he turned and walked back toward the parking lot, disappearing between 2 cars. I checked the cameras immediately, rewound the footage. He walked straight up to the window from the darkness beyond the lot's edge, not from any parked car, not from the road. Just emerged from the tree line and approached, then walked back the same way. No vehicle, no explanation. I made a note in the logbook, 2047 a.m. Unidentified male, no interaction. Probably nothing. Probably just someone confused or high. But he came back the next night. Same time, 2047 a.m. exactly. This time, he stood even closer to the glass, and I could see his breath fogging it up in the cold air. I stood up from my chair, my heart already racing. "Can I help you?" I called out, loud enough for him to hear through the window. Nothing. No response. No movement. Just that same hollow stare from beneath the hood. I reached for the phone, ready to call the police, and the moment my hand touched the receiver, he turned and walked away. Same direction. Back toward the trees. I did call the police that time. Told them about both nights. They sent an officer around 4 a.m. who took my statement. Checked the perimeter, found nothing. "Probably just some drifter," he said. "But call us immediately if he shows up again." I pulled the footage for him, clear shots of the man approaching, standing, leaving. The officer noted that you couldn't see a face, couldn't see any identifying features, just a gray hoodie and dark pants. "Keep your doors locked," he advised. Night 3. I came prepared, doors locked and double-checked, phone within reach. I even asked my manager if I could leave early or switch shifts, but we were short-staffed. Just 1 more week, he promised. So there I sat, watching the clock tick toward 2:47 a.m., every muscle in my body tense, eyes glued to the parking lot through the window. 2:45, 2:45, 2:45, Marby Monras, my money, reminder cell. 5:45, 2:46, my hands were shaking. 2:47, nothing. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. 5 minutes passed, 10. Maybe he was gone. Maybe he'd moved on. Then the bell at the front desk rang. That little silver bell guests tap when they need assistance. I nearly jumped out of my skin. I'd been staring at the front entrance the entire time no one had come in. The doors were locked. I was alone. But the bell sat there on the desk, still gently rocking from side to side, its tiny chime fading into the silence. I grabbed my phone, pulled up the camera feed, and scrubbed backward 30 seconds. My blood ran cold. On the monitor, I watched myself sitting at the desk, staring toward the window. Then, from the hallway behind me, the hallway that led to the guest rooms, a hand reached around the corner, a hand in a gray sleeve. It stretched toward the desk, one finger extended, and tapped the bell once before withdrawing back into the hallway. He was inside. He'd been inside the entire time, somewhere in the building, waiting. I didn't think. I ran, straight out the front door into the parking lot, fumbling with my phone to dial 911 as my feet hit the pavement. I stood under the brightest light I could find, next to the road, and waited for the police with my eyes locked on that entrance. They arrived within 6 minutes, 3 cars, 5 officers. They cleared the building room by room, checked every closet, every bathroom, the maintenance areas, the storage rooms, nothing. No sign of forced entry, no broken windows, no open doors. But when they checked the back emergency exit, the one that should have been alarmed, they found it slightly ajar. The alarm had been disabled. Wires pulled clean out of the panel. The officers filed the report, reviewed the footage, told me I did the right thing by running, but they never found him. No fingerprints, no DNA, no witnesses. Just that single camera clip of a gray sleeve and a hand tapping a bell in an empty lobby at 2047 a.m. I quit the next day, didn't even go back for my last paycheck, had them mail it. My manager understood. But here's the thing that still keeps me up at night. 2 weeks after I quit, I ran into the officer who responded that third night. He told me they'd gone back and checked the guest records for the week before the incident started, Every room had been occupied by verified guests except one. Room 12 at the end of the hallway, right around the corner from the front desk. It had been marked as occupied in the system for 6 days straight, but there was no name, no credit card, no ID on file. Someone had checked in somehow without going through the front desk, and housekeeping reported that the bed had been slept in, but nothing else in the room had been touched. Just a single pillow with a head impression and the curtains drawn shut. I still wonder who stayed in room 12, and I still wonder what would have happened if I hadn't looked at that camera feed when I did. If you've ever worked a night shift alone, you know that feeling, that creeping sense that you're not as alone as you think. So tell me, what would you have done? And if you've got your own late night story, share it below. Because sometimes the scariest things are the ones we can't explain.